Thank you so much for joining me for another wonderful Success Innovation episode. This episode is titled From Military to College Career. In this episode, our guest, Jerry Anthony Tristan, is an individual who takes us in a journey where he went from high school to a military career to college and how he has been navigating through those in order for getting himself into a career path of success. Jerry Anthony describes the hardships, the difficult obstacles that he has to overcome, and the collaboration that he has with his significant other in order to allow him to succeed via college. We explore the organizations that allowed him to succeed so far. Welcome, Jerry Anthony Tristan, to Success Innovation. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Thank you so much to the audience for tuning in once again to another fantastic episode. Today I have the wonderful opportunity of interviewing yet another wonderful individual with fantastic experiences who will be sharing those with us. His name is Jerry Anthony Tristan. He is graduating in the fall of 2020 from the University of Houston as a mechanical engineer. He has served 6 years as a proud member of the United States Air Force. He obtained his realtor license and has helped the community achieve the dreams of owning a home. He continues to be a very active mentor and most recently has obtained an internship position with ExxonMobil. Welcome, Jerry Anthony Tristan. Welcome to Success Innovation. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you, Lázaro. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for having me here. It's a blessing.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So, we were talking a little bit earlier, saying that you're a second generation Mexican American growing up in the United States. So, with that being said, I want you to kind of give us a brief summary from your early stages. Where were you actually born, and how was your experience growing up in the Mexican
Okay.
American family?
Yeah. So I was born a little outside of Houston, Texas, a city called Richmond, Texas. But I grew up in Houston. So early on, English was learned as my first language. As I guess my parents grew up here at a young age. They knew Spanish as their first language. So growing up, I guess they had trouble transitioning with English. So whenever I was born and they were raising me, they wanted me to learn English first to kind of help break that barrier of maybe getting teased for not, understanding. So English is my first language, but I do understand and speak most Spanish. So I'm still grateful for that. Just talking to my abuela, my grandma is where I keep most of it. But as far as growing up as a second generation, I basically grew up with the same principles and same traditions as my parents did. And being growing up, really, my parents weren't able to finish high school. They ended up actually getting married at a young age and kind of having me there. So they were able to maintain and support the home without a high school diploma. They had to work different jobs and work late, long hours. So when I was growing up, really school wasn't a priority because they kind of seen it as they made it without it. So they knew that, maybe they felt that I could make it without school. So it wasn't really a priority. So growing up, I didn't really think I was go to college. I did have it kind of like at the back of my mind. That's what I wanted to do because everyone around me was doing it. But um, yeah, that's kind of how it was until graduating high school. I was the first to graduate, and that was a real big accomplishment. But then afterwards, that's where things kind of got a little more interesting as we can go into that.
Okay, all right. So I want to dig a little, in the language aspect. So you said that your
Okay.
parents had a hard time when they were growing up because they were transitioning, and essentially they were ESL English
Yeah.
learners, English as a second language learners. So
Right.
that's what I'm assuming they were at around the time that you kind of mentioned when they were young. Now that
Hmm.
you're coming into the picture as a small child, they have a son. So they decide with that bad experience not to do the same thing to you and to just put you in English only classes. So you're going through this. Did you ever at any point feel that you had a harder time because you're a Mexican American going through learning English, but Spanish is predominantly spoken at home to a certain degree? How was that through your developmental years?
Yeah, that's interesting. Since English was my first language, I did have a little trouble talking Spanish with friends because a lot of my friends they grew up with English as their first language. So that was a challenge. Being I have a darker complexion, so I was always people assume that I was spoke Spanish clearly and effectively. And growing up, it wasn't I didn't talk that great. They could tell that it wasn't my first language. So dealing with that, I did feel a little, um, I guess, ashamed that I didn't know as much Spanish as my peers did. But it was something that I had to dig within myself to like just because I wasn't speaking as fluent as they were didn't mean I was any less Latino or Mexican American than they were. It still ran through my veins. I still had the same traditions. It's just that aspect is what people saw. And I had to find that within myself to not let that get to me.
Right. And I bring this up because the show obviously is predominantly English, the Success Innovation podcast, mainly because of that reason. I don't want to generalize that just because it's a Hispanic community that everybody speaks Spanish, although some of them and most of us understand to a certain degree Spanish. But I want to be an all inclusive show and have all those individuals learn from the Latinos, Hispanics, regardless of the language, since we are predominantly talking in English, that they can definitely understand it a little bit better. And that's why I asked you, because I want to make that point about the show. And also, I understand that your parents, from what you told me, they weren't really pushing you to pursue a higher education. So you alone decided to pursue an education, but before you actually did that, you decided to go into the United States Air Force. How did that happen?
Yeah. So after graduating high school, I wanted to go to school, but I didn't really know what I wanted to study because education wasn't a push, so I never really thought about what I can become professionally. Trying to be a doctor or a lawyer were like to me too far fetched, basically because of the environment I grew up in. I didn't never seen anybody in a business suit ever, so I didn't think that was within my sphere. Um, I did attend community college for a year after high school, and it was going good until I started having some personal issues going on at home where I felt like I wasn't headed in the right direction. So looking at like my um, environment, I was thinking like, what can I do to like get myself out of this environment and do something better for myself so I can grow, mature, and really, set my up for the future. And I started looking at the military and started going to the recruiter's office. And that's when I went by the Air Force recruiting office and saw what they offered, and they offered educational benefits as well, which I'm sorry,
Sorry.
which they offered educational benefits, and that was a main attraction to like, oh, maybe let me go serve and then gain some real hands-on grow, and then I can go back to school later. So that's was my thinking process before when I enlisted in the Air Force. And the job that I picked was to be a jet engine mechanic on the C-130 aircraft. And so I thought it was going to be an exciting time because I always kind of liked working on my hands. So I just chose to go that route, and the rest is history.
Okay, so you served for 6 years. Was that by choice, or was that you obviously, from what I understand, 4 years is something that you're required to do once you sign up. So did you do an additional 2 years because you wanted to stay in? How did that happen?
No, so I had the option for 4 or 6,
Mhm.
and I chose to do 6 years. And mainly it was because they were going to be able to, I was going to be able to rank a little faster if I went through 6 years. So I was looking at if I can get an early promotion, that's going to help me with my military career. And so I went ahead and did 6 years. And I went through basic training, went through technical school, and then my first base was actually in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay. What was from, you were a high school graduate, went to community college for about a year, then you decided to go into the military, into the armed forces. When you actually get to the military and you're in boot camp, what was going through your mind at that exact moment? Were you thinking, this is exactly what I expected? Or, oh, geez, this is totally different than what I expected? And I ask this
uh,
question because a lot of high school students need to find this out. And if it was a good route for you, fine. If it wasn't, somebody else might learn from this experience
yeah,
and uh, t- think a little bit harder about what they're actually going to pursue.
yeah. Uh, yeah, boot camp was definitely an experience. Getting there, they're screaming at you and like just yelling at you, and you're taking your bags everywhere, and you have to find a bed, and like that first week was so much confusion and chaos. I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here. I can't call home. I can't like just I can't go to the restroom when I want. I had to like ask for everything. But it was just kind of, it had to settle in. It was an initial like shock, but after about a week, I wasn't the only one feeling this way. Everyone there was kind of in a shock, and then we all, you know, I remembered why I did this. I had to remember why I chose to enlist, what the outcome was going to be. I had to get through boot camp, and I was like, it's only it's only 2 months. Let me get through this. I'm gonna come out stronger, more disciplined, more determined. So that's kind of like what kept me going. So it's really for anyone thinking about whoever thought about going into the armed forces and boot camp, it's gonna be hard, but you have to remember why you're there. Just don't think about that moment. Think about the be the outcome of this. It's only temporary, 2 to 3 months. So just think about what you're gaining. You're gaining so much more. Brotherhood. You're gaining discipline. You're learning how to leadership, teamwork. So all of that was like, okay, I can do this. I can do it. I'm not, there was is people have been doing this for 50, 60 years and been passing boot camp. I can do it as well.
Right. So when you actually leave boot camp and
Hmm.
you're deployed to wherever station you're going to be doing, was the actual job position something that you expected? Was that different? Did the training that they provide you, was that sufficient? Obviously, when you get to the position, they continue providing you training as you go on. But how was that transition into the actual post?
Yeah. It was what I did because fortunately I was able to pick the position before leaving to boot camp, so I knew exactly what I was getting. But there were others who I guess didn't have that opportunity. Some people just chose a general area. Some people chose like maybe to do electrician, but they didn't know if they're either going to be a building electrician or on aircraft or vehicle. But I knew exactly what I was going into. So after boot camp, they sent us to what's called technical school, where we learn our trade. And that's where we learn the basic fundamentals of our job. Once we graduate technical school, I got sent to Little Rock, Arkansas. And of course, I continued on the job training. And it was it was very fast paced. It was good, but it is the job itself, the hands on learning, what I was expected. That's it was in line what I was expecting to do. But what I didn't expect is just kind of the environment of the military. I was 19 or about to be 20, and there's people have been doing this 20, 15 years. And so they have a rhythm and they're quick, they're fast paced, and you just got to get in there, jump on board and just start, hustling and just working fast and learning fast. If you don't, you're going to get teased, and it's a little teasing, and you're going to feel like you're getting left behind. So it was a really, the main obstacle was to just being able to adapt as soon as we got there, because it's hands on and it was fast.
What was the best experience that you have from being in the United States Air Force as a serviceman?
Mhm. I think the best experience was, really really building my character, finding who I am, finding out what I'm capable of, um, knowing that I can adapt and get over a situation because I've been there. Because the military kind of like, because they don't really you don't really have no as an answer, or no is not a choice, so you have to find a way to make it work. And that's something I'm very proud of that I learned, was like, the ability to just adapt and overcome. And that's what I'm really grateful for. I'm really grateful for the mentorship that I had while I was in the military, and the training that I received. It really kind of broadened my eyes, my because look, growing up in Houston, or growing up, I felt like my vision was limited within my circle. And then leaving in the military and meeting new people from all over the states, it really opened it up. And I was like, wow, there's so many different like types of people, so many different ways of thinking, so many different perspectives, and that made me grow and mature a lot faster than a lot of my peers who were still within college. So I'm really grateful for that. That was one of the most exciting things that I really received within the military. And while I was in the military, it's kind of where I found out what I want to study,
Mhm.
because I entering the military, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. It wasn't until about 2 years in the Air Force, I actually transitioned to the Air Force Reserve. Um, And for those who don't know what the reserves are, you just, as a reservist, you serve 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year. And so I transitioned to the reserve so I can go back to school, because, while working on with my hands as a mechanic, I took an appreciation of looking at all this mechanical equipment, how things go together, how does an engine become efficient, or how does it make power. So I was like, I think I want to do mechanical engineering. So transitioning into the reserves, I started going to school part time, and I started working at this automotive shop. I worked at this automotive shop because I still needed a part time job, because 1 week in a month wasn't going to be able to help
Sustain
me
your
as much,
expenses, right?
right?
Yeah,
So I
right.
still worked part time at an automotive shop while I was taking part time classes, just kind of getting my basic courses out of the way. Because at that at Little Rock, they didn't really have the program that I was looking for. So like my vision long term was to go to the University of Houston, but while I'm in Little Rock waiting for until I finish my commitment, I was taking classes and working at the automotive shop.
Okay, fantastic. And you answered one of those questions I wanted to ask you. How did you actually find and get into mechanical engineering? So thank you for sharing that experience with us. I noticed that you have a wedding ring, and I'm going to ask you this because at what point, and this is very, this is very useful for the audience. At what point did you actually get married? And obviously, it must have been in that transition period between you becoming a reservist, going to community college, and transitioning over to the University of Houston. I don't know exactly what point, but
Yeah.
how did that happen? Not necessarily the wedding portion, but how did that impact your dedication and your time management in order for you to continue your studies?
Yeah. So I actually got married while I was in community college, still back at home before the military.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, we were basically we're high school sweethearts,
Okay.
and we both my wife wasn't sure how she would school at the and so when I was looking at recruiting for the Air Force, I brought her along with me, and she saw the benefit in it as well. And she wanted to study nursing, and so within the military, they had medical positions that interested her. So we both enlisted with months from each other, and um, when I decided to go transition into the reserves. She actually stayed active duty because she was able to maintain her she was able to maintain her EMT and her job within the military, and they were giving her the opportunity to take classes. But for me, I didn't have that flexibility with my job because she had normal, 7 to 4 hours business hours, but my hours, I would change shifts. It wasn't as consistent. So I wanted to find a little more consistency to help me, so I can manage my time better while going to school.
Okay. So you
And
guys have
so,
been together for a while since before enlisting in the service. But after you get out, how did that affect or did it have any impact as far as you going to school and her still being active military, and
yeah.
whenever she was off and you had a final or something to study for, or you have to go to a group study session, how did she handle that?
Yeah, that was a big challenge. So after I finished my commitment in Arkansas, and I moved to Houston by myself because my wife still had a couple more months to serve. But I knew that um, there was a whole lot of thinking and background that happened before I made that decision. We made a plan to pay off our cars, to make sure we're going to go debt free, to make sure we can afford to move and get out of the military because they're helping us. We're just dependent on their income for so long, so we knew we had to plan ahead. So doing all that planning, I said, okay, I'm gonna move to Houston so I can get a head start in school, so I can kind of be on track. So whenever you get out, I'm getting close to graduating, so there's not too long of a break without income. And that first semester that I started at U of H, she was still in Arkansas, and that was a tough semester because that was my first time really taking any engineering classes. So I wasn't really sure of the amount of work and studying that was going to be required of engineering courses compared to the other basic courses that I was taking. And she was at the home by herself, and we had bought a house, so she had to kind of learn how to be the homekeeper that I was doing while I was there. So that was bringing stress to her, and that would add stress to our long distance,
Relationship,
conversations,
right?
relationship,
Yeah.
right? And so I would try to study and find time to I have to manage studying time, but I have to also converse with her and ask how her day is doing to make sure she's taken care of. And uh, we were able to do it for about a week or two, and then it was getting very distracting on my studies. And so I said, okay, let me drive to Little Rock, which is about a 7 to 8 hour drive from Houston. So I would leave Thursday. My last class ended at 7 p.m. I would leave. I would drive straight from school to Little Rock and get there at about 1 or 2 in the morning, go to sleep. Then I would wake up, spend the weekend doing any house duties, try to get maybe 30 minutes to an hour of studying, and then leave Sunday, uh, maybe around 2 p.m., get back in Houston Sunday night, and then have to get ready for school Monday again. So my study habits were really affected by that. And it really showed my first semester. I think I got two B's. I had a C and maybe one A, and it was like, man, did I make the right decision moving here? Am I doing the right thing? It really took a toll on like all my choices that I made. And the following semester, I decided to take that semester off and move back to Arkansas to strengthen our relationship because I didn't want to go through another semester of that. So I went back to Arkansas and I worked at Arkansas for the rest of the following semester. And then so I started my first semester at U of H in spring. I moved in the summer to Arkansas, stayed there through the summer, through the fall. And then her commitment was going to be over around January the following year. That's when I was like, okay, great. I'm going to start back at U of H. And you only had to stay here for about a month in Arkansas before she moves back to Houston with me. And that semester went a lot more smoother because she had moved here. And so I was able to take more time to study because I would see her every day when I got home. So that first semester though was a big challenge that had me questioning my decisions.
So when you're questioning your decisions, I mean, it's because the relationship is being strained, but you're not doing so well in classes, and emotionally and physically, you're drained because you're trying to juggle all this time management.
Yeah.
But in school, what was the hardest class that kind of made you question, am I making the right decision? Am I smart enough to actually pursue engineering? And how
Um,
did you actually cope with sticking through it?
so the hardest class was statics. And the statics was definitely the hardest that made me question if I chose the right major, if uh, if I should just quit school and just go back to working. Um, because I just felt like no matter how much I studied, well, I didn't have a lot of time to study anyways, but I wasn't sure like am I studying the right way or like how like I don't have the time. But the following semester, um, when we decided when I went back to Arkansas and was working and taking care of and living with my wife, you know, we did have this conversation. I'm like, I made so much planning. I already decided that I'm going to study mechanical engineering. I had such a tough semester. I'm not like, I feel like I don't, maybe I'm not, I don't, maybe I'm not going to be able to make it. But I was like, I can't, I don't want to stay in the military. I want to have a college education. None of my sisters, they're all younger than me. And no one in my family has been like, has a college education. So I was like, I joined the military for the benefits of, you know, they had the educational benefits. So I was like, like I have no other decision. I have to do it. I'm gonna make it. Um, if I have to retake the class, I'm gonna retake the class. But that one class isn't gonna define the rest of what can be the rest of my future as a professional engineer. I was like, like I can't let that happen. And so I was like, next semester, you know, that's the reason why I stayed. And I was like, you know, we're gonna work on our relationship, make sure that we're good before we both move to Houston. And I was like, and when we move, I was like, we're both gonna be out of the military. There's no going back. And I was like, we're not we're not going back on this decision. We have to make this work. So
So it's
it
essentially the
was basic.
zero option mentality type of
That's it.
scenario for you. We're like, okay, this is the goal, regardless of how tough it is. I'm gonna stick through it. There's no
Exactly.
other option. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. Thank you so much. You know, I've also, you know, you have. I want to focus on the realtor license for a little bit before we go
Yeah.
back to the school. How did that come about? How did you decide to jump into that?
Yeah. Um, so real estate has been kind of not in my life, but my dad used to do construction for homes, and I would help him when I was young and still in high school. And so when I would go help him at these homes, you know, I would be like, who are you, who's you working for? And he would always be usually working for what I know now as an investor. I didn't know at the time, but it's usually just investors who had done fixing properties or were managing their properties. And, once I came back to Houston and I was, had my first summer in Houston, I didn't have an internship at the time. So I decided to go to work with my dad. And he's still in the same line of business. So I would go help him, and I would actually meet some of the people that he was doing the work for. And they would tell me that, yeah, they had a couple other properties. So I looked at it and I was like, well, I have some experience within the construction of homes, and I have some of that handy experience. So I was like, um, my mentality was, if I needed to develop some kind of side hustle or something to help support me while I'm in school, that I was going to try to get my realtor license and try to work with investors, or try to help people move into homes, or even do something with my own personal, doing maybe a fix and flip here and there. I haven't done any yet, but the mindset behind getting the realtor license was to kind of get prepared, um, for when the opportunity comes. Because right now my focus is school and my like engineering career, but I wanted to have that realtor license to really have me prepared. So whenever I can take a step back from, after graduating and I'm working full time, maybe I can, dive into doing real estate on the weekends, or with family, or with friends. So that's where the realtor license came in. And then I saw it as an opportunity to network, because moving to Houston, my network wasn't so big anymore. So I needed an opportunity to network. And I always considered myself kind of as an introvert. And getting that realtor license had to force me to come out of my comfort zone, make cold calls, talk to people, network, learn on communicating. So I saw that as a benefit. I was like, hey, I can work on my public speaking, I can work on my interpersonal communication skills. So that was a plus for me as far as the realtor license.
Speaking about networking, do you belong to any student-run organizations within the University of Houston? And if so, which ones, or which one do you belong to?
Yeah. I belong to SHEP, Professional Engineers, and I belong to an organization called Formula Society of Automotive Engineers.
Okay.
And those were the two main organizations that I've been more active in. Um, with Formula Society of Automotive Engineers, I finished this last academic year as the vice president. The year before that, I was a sustainability chair. But with SHEP, I had always been more of the mentor paired with a mentee. So um, me being kind of a non-traditional student, I was a little older than some of my peers, and so I felt that I had experience to offer and advice to kind of give for younger students who were questioning stuff about courses, or just general life questions on my relationship, because I did get married at a younger age. So people who were thinking about marriage or relationships, I was able to give them my perspective and kind of give them a different perspective on how I made that through school, and how, what kind of challenges I was able to identify and overcome while going to college.
So how did you actually run into SHIP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and also the FSAE? How did you
How did,
find out? How did you find out about? You're coming from the military, going to university. Obviously, this is brand new,
yeah,
or student organizations. And why were you attracted to them? How did that happen?
yeah. Yeah, I didn't get really exposed until I think my second or third semester at the University of Houston. SHEP, I heard about them at I seen the general flyers around campus, and they're offering free pizza, free food. And then I went to this event, and I was like so many other Latinos and Hispanics. I felt like, wow, like um, just living in Arkansas so long, I feel a lot really secluded in Arkansas. There wasn't a lot of Latinos over there. So moving back to Houston and getting in a room with like-minded individuals, and we all kind of look the same. I thought it was really cool. I was like, this is awesome. This is like, I've like feel like a family, right? And then they were also very motivated, positive. They were also everyone was so nice. So it was very attractive to like, I want to be a part of this because I want to learn more. So that's kind of what got me into SHEP. And then with FSAE, I did hear, there was a race car parked outside of the engineering building. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I've been working on my hands for the past couple of years with the airplanes and the automotive shop. And I was like, it was interesting. And so I went to one of their general meetings and they were talking about they build race cars and they get on teams and they actually the students are engineering these cars. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Let me stick around and see what else I can learn. It was really interesting.
Okay, fantastic. Those are really good experiences. And, for those young students, young individuals, if you find yourself at a college, university, be it community college, or a university, four-year university, there's bound to be organizations that are student run, student led. So I behoove you to go ahead and seek those out and join them. Join them, to see what you can actually learn. Try something else, try something new that might open your horizons a little more and allow you those experiences of leadership and personal development as personal growth as well. So go ahead and seek those opportunities out. And as you can see from Anthony's experience, he definitely has benefited from them. I want to ask you, what has been the biggest benefit that you've experienced by being a member of SHIP as well as the FSAE member?
Yeah. For SHIP, I think the biggest is man, I feel like the network is a big thing. The networking is so powerful. You meet people from all over the country with different similar backgrounds and but different experiences as far as you can share your experiences, they can share it with you, and you both grow together. I thought that was really awesome, and that really benefited from the workshops that they hosted at the university. Being a part of the workshops that would go over your resume or do mock interviews or just general advice to help you grow as a student and as a leader was really beneficial, and it was just such a familia, feel to it. Um, and with FSAE, I think the most I took out of it was um, the the early exposure of the engineering, how you can apply what you learn in the classroom into like real life. Because with a lot of other organizations, they don't really have a lot of projects that you can apply what you learn in statics, thermodynamics, or any of those courses until you actually get an internship or graduate. But with FSAE, you would have sophomores and juniors, you know, uh, doing testing on the type of braking material that they were going to use for the vehicle or doing FEA analysis on the chassis. And it was very eye-opening. Like, oh, wow, like people in the FSAE team are doing like all these engineering things, and like they're the sophomores and juniors know a lot more than the seniors who aren't part of FSAE. So I thought that was a really big benefit of the joining the FSAE, and that's what I really liked about it.
And that's because you're definitely applying and thinking outside the box from the coursework versus which is just theory to a certain extent, but you're
Hmm.
actually putting it into use and saying, oh, okay, well, if I do this, theory says this, for the most part, maybe I'm not doing it right. Let's see if I can go ahead and figure this out correctly. And not only that, you also get to network, you also get to communicate, develop those communication skills, develop those team working skills, develop those
Hmm.
time management skills. So you're not only just in a team, in an organization, you're developing more as a professional to that aspect of running in a team environment, running how to uh, get projects completed in a timely fashion, because you do have a deadline to go ahead and deliver the project and make sure that the
Right.
product actually runs and functions the way you want it to. Obviously, there's
Right.
going to be ups and downs, obstacles and failures, but off of those obstacles and failures, you learn from them, and you definitely learn how to get back up and continue moving forward. So I think that's really key for the audience and for the individuals listening and watching this show, to learn from what Jerry Anthony Tristan's experience has been by joining those two organizations. I do want to ask you, we mentioned that you're getting an internship with ExxonMobil. How is that coming along? Is this your actual first internship? How did you actually achieve obtaining an internship? But first and most foremost, what is an internship?
Yeah. An internship is an opportunity to work as a trainee, basically as an engineer, but under the engineer supervision for the summer. Usually, an internship for the summer is either 10 to 12 weeks, and you're working under the supervision of another engineer on projects that the company is currently working. And so, for some people, for some companies, they'll give you a little more freedom depending on the type of security clearance needed for the project. But for the most part, you tackle this project on your own. You have the resources, but it's up to you individually to seek out and communicate with others if you need the help from them, and to get the help that to get what you need from others, because everything's available, but all the other engineers have their own work that they're doing, and they're trusting you to be able to work on this project, find out what you need, and deliver by the deadline. And but it's usually not only one project. You work on multiple projects, so then of course there comes your time management, your ability to balance your project. So, and then at the end of the internship, usually you would do a presentation on the projects that you worked on, what you learned from it, and if what effect did it have on the company or the program that you're working with. And then so this is where you kind of get the opportunity to actually apply what that theory that you learn in school, apply it in real life and see, what's different about it, and it gives you it gives you kind of the fundamental direction of where to go because you have that theory knowledge.
Okay. And how did you was is this ExxonMobil your first internship?
No, it's going to be my second.
Your second one, okay.
Yeah.
How do you manage to score an internship with ExxonMobil or with any company?
Hmm.
What can
Okay.
you do? What is the process to go ahead and
Yeah.
get that internship secured?
Yeah. So my first internship was with Raytheon. They're more of a defense aerospace company, and with Raytheon, that one I was applying just all over the country. I just wanted my first internship, and I think my resume was kind of what got me the opportunity for Raytheon. But with ExxonMobil, definitely was the networking. So with at my school, these student organizations like SHEP, NESB, and SWE, they would have these workshops, and they would have these events where the companies will come out and speak about the company. So I would attend everywhere Exxon was going. I would attend that company. So if someone is really eyeing a certain company, I would make an effort to go to every workshop that they're included in, to make sure that it's usually going to be one or two recruiters that are consistent at each workshop, and they're going to see you every time. You're going to show how interested you are. So that's what I did. I went to every workshop that ExxonMobil was at, and I spoke once everybody was done speaking and they were taking students' questions. I always made sure I went to go speak with them and ask about the company, ask about the positions I was interested in, to share a little bit about me. And so I think that was one of the most effective ways that I was kind of able to get the interview, because by the time the career fair came around, these recruiters had seen me already at the workshops, and they knew I was like dedicated and really trying to get with them. And so, and then it was less, I was less nervous too, because it wasn't my first time speaking with them. And so that really helped and come off a lot more natural, a lot more confident. And so that was able to get me through the first interview. And I was able to practice that. And then, fortunately I was able to get the internship. But I want to say that the networking really, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to take that initial step, because most students will kind of wait for the career fair before they try to speak with the recruiter. But the recruiter has been on campus at least 3 or 4 times, with certain organizations to kind of do a presentation. So I would say just making sure if you pick a certain company, you're really passionate about it, to follow that company, and try to do what you can to speak with the recruiter and be memorable.
Right. So that, make a note that success is not an overnight process. It takes time to actually develop, to follow those steps, to put the work in, to build those relationships with the recruiters, to actually put that work in and getting to know them and them getting to know you at a personal face level where, when you actually go to a career fair and you stand in front of a recruiter for like 2 to 3 minutes, because that's essentially what you get. That's not essentially enough. If, Anthony had been with the recruiter for 10, 15 minutes over 3 or 4 or 5 times, then he's racked up about an hour and he's built that rapport up. So when he gets to that career fair and he spends an additional 2 to 3 minutes, that recruiter, that company already has a history behind that conversation. Whereas if I step in and I only show up for that 2 to 3 minute period, I can tell them whatever I want. But that relationship with Anthony and them is a lot stronger than me and them that I've just talked to them for about 2 minutes. So take heed of that advice to go ahead and make an effort to go ahead and build that relationship, as much as possible. So thank you for sharing that with us, Anthony. That's really great. Um, what are the next steps for Anthony Tristan here? You've recently been coming in as a internship with ExxonMobil engineer. Are you thinking about pursuing the industry path? Are you eventually thinking and interested in going into the DoD? Or what are you pursuing? What is the future for Jerry Anthony Tristan at this point?
Yeah. Uh, so right now, my main focus is, absorbing what I can, be a sponge during my internship, and really try to understand the industry and the company to see if it's going to be a good fit for afterwards, after graduating. Because I have had a lot of years in the DoD industry with the Air Force and with Raytheon. The culture of the DoD, I think I kind of know. I kind of know what that culture is like already. So with Exxon, I did want to explore and see what else is out there, and I want to see how I fit within that culture. And so that's going to be my main objective for at least the rest of the summer. Going into the fall, of course, it's going to be all about my academics and looking to network. That's one of my main goals this year, is to really network, be more visible on LinkedIn, uh, post content, valuable content, and to really grow my network and just communicate with people and see what their experiences are, if they have similar experiences with me, or if they have experiences within certain interested in, to try to gain a better understanding if that's where I want to go after graduating. And with my real estate license, I do want to stay, try to put, I do want to stay consistent, or I want to stay involved with it. I want to try to continue learning about the market, continue learning about the opportunities that real estate has. So that way, whenever I am ready to make a big decision with either investing into my own properties, I'll be ready to make that step once I've secured a full-time position with a company and have a couple years under my belt. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on until graduating, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good year, internship, and um, hopefully, I'm hoping we get it through this economy. I'm hoping that we come with a solution with this COVID-19. And I feel really blessed that I'm still able to have my internship. I know, other people aren't so lucky, and just I really like the positive energy that I see on LinkedIn about everyone who if their offer was rescinded, they're working on personal projects to kind of supplement that internship, or they're working on you know uh, increasing their skill set on either programming or just with other activities. So I think this is really good, and it's really good for the community. And I hope that we get through this, so we can all come out on top.
Right, of course. And you mentioned the COVID-19, and we are recording during the May timeframe 2020, when we are still under quarantine for most of the nation. You mentioned your internship with ExxonMobil. Is that going to be a remote internship, or are you actually going to be physically present at whatever location they have required you to be?
Yeah. I'm gonna be physically at the location.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good to know. Okay. All right. I do have a question about SHIP. Have you ever been to a national conference? Because we've mentioned in the past, in previous shows, that there is several conferences, but one of them is the national conferences, where there are thousands of individuals that actually show up and are looking for employment, and there are hundreds of companies that actually show up to the career fair portion of it. Have you been to a national convention so far?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to go. I've been to the RLDC last semester, and that was my first convention that I went to, and it was a blast. I mean, I
Right.
got to meet a lot of good people. I had to learn a lot about SHEP, about leadership, and how to implement different strategies into the organization as leader. It was really beneficial.
Right.
I can't wait for the national.
And RLDC stands for Regional Leadership Development Conference, just for those who don't know what RLDC is. And every region from 1 through 7 at this point, they all have their own independent RLDCs, Regional Development Conferences. And every region's invited, but it's more focused towards whatever region is actually hosting it. Um, Good leaders always create good leaders. Do you have any individuals you actually look up to? And if so, who are they, and who are your mentors?
Yeah. Um, so leaders and mentor, I think for me is essentially kind of the same people.
Okay.
Um, for me, one of my mentors has been uh, Bartholomew. He's someone I met through LinkedIn, and we've had conversations, and we have a similar background, and he's kind of been through the journey that I'm going through. So it's been really beneficial to speak with him, to get advice, to share what I'm going through and his similarities, and it's been a really good relationship, and it basically doesn't make me feel like I'm alone in this journey. And so I recommend for everyone to have mentors, and because it's just so beneficial to your just to your personal development. It just helps out with growth. And um yeah, I think he's been one of the most
Uh,
influential
uh,
leaders I was speaking with.
you mentioned that you met him through LinkedIn and that your
Mm.
relationship kind of started developing off of that. What's the biggest and best advice that you've received from talking to Bartholomew Perez?
Um, I think the the biggest advice that I think settled was the man. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, no, no
Yeah,
worries. It's fine.
I think it's kind of the the passion. You know, when I was speaking with him, he had so much passion about wanting to grow the like the Latino community, right? And so to me, kind of just being passionate was finding what you're passionate about. Basically, what I felt was really motivational and driven for me. If you can find what you're passionate about, find out your why. You know, find out once you know your why, it'll make so much. You know, it'll make it so much easier going forward. When any obstacle comes your way, you know, it's gonna be you're gonna be able to move it out the way because you know your why. And I think that's what fuels me.
Okay, fantastic. What would you say? What do you believe your superpower is at this point? If you don't think that you have a superpower, what superpower would you select from any superhero out there, Marvel or DC, would you select for yourself, or whichever superpower hero you would choose
Yeah.
to adopt, and why?
Uh, I want to say Tony Stark.
Tony
I would
Stark. All
I
right,
would love
you.
to have his superpower, you know, just
Okay.
his he's a genius and he's just so quick on his feet. But if I said my superpower, I think would be I think my determination. I think I'm very proud of what I've achieved and the determination that I have, even with some of my circle growing up. You know, speaking with them, sometimes I can talk very positively and just I dream big, and I think sometimes it's kind of too big for them to like come, you know, think of it as reality. But it's like, you know, when I was in high school, I didn't think I would be in the position I'm in today. So I think my determination and ability to dream and you know really go after it, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, that determination plus that preparation, goes a long
Exactly.
way because it
Hmm.
does it does go hand in hand. You need to prepare,
Hmm.
and but you do need to have that determination to head on those obstacles and those things that might be roadblocks in your way to actually overcome them. So that's a wonderful, wonderful superpower to have. Thank you for sharing that with us. Is there any particular book, movie, or podcast that you believe has made an impact in your life and you wish more people would take advantage of it that you could share with us?
Hmm. Um, there's a book called "So Good They Can't Ignore You," and
Wow.
it's by I'm looking at it now. It's by Cal Newport.
If you want to grab
Cal
it and
Newport.
show, if you want to grab it and show it,
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah,
yeah,
go for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
This was one of the books that I really enjoyed, and I think uh, really just made a difference on how I see kind of how I see the world, right? Because so the book is so good they can't ignore you is where you develop a skill that you the skill is not natural. A skill most skills you put in the work, you put in the preparation and you and the time. And once you develop the skill and you've become really good at it, you can now use your your skill to kind of you be so good at that they can ignore you. So sometimes you can use your skill to leverage if you're trying to go up for a promotion or if you're trying to you know switch make a lateral switch within to the company. If you develop that skill, that would help you so much into doing that, and is just a really different way of looking at you know a task really it's not looking at a task not only for itself but look at it as you know I can be really good at this task and it can either you know make you money by leveraging it, you can develop a business, or you can leverage your skill to find new opportunities. And I thought it was a really good book.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that book. So good that they can't ignore you. So everybody
Yeah.
listening, make sure that you pick up a copy or order it in Barnes and Noble, wherever you want to get your book. So go ahead and make sure that you pick that book up. Recommendation by Anthony Tristan there. What is your definition of success? You've gone through the United States Air Force service, you went through community college, you have your realtor's license, you're almost ready to graduate college from the University of Houston, and you've scored your second internship with now ExxonMobil for the first time. But what is the definition of success for you at this point?
I think success, um, for me, success means like, I guess for me, success is kind of not so easily defined. I think for everyone is different, of course,
Right.
but for me, what I consider success is knowing that I did the best that I can, that I'm trying to the fullest of my potential, and um, looking back and being able to say that I left everything on the table. I had nothing else to give, and I think as long as I do that, I consider that to be successful. As long as wherever that takes me, if you put everything into it, if you um, you know use if you use all your energy into like passion to go towards a goal, more than likely you're going to achieve that goal, or you're going to go and achieve other goals. And I think that's going to be success for me. It's for me, it's making sure I'm working to the fullest of my potential, and being the best that I can be.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful definition of success. Thank you so much, Anthony, for sharing that with me and the audience. This
Thank you.
question, I really enjoy asking this question of every single guest. And this one, I want you to go back in time. I want you to go back in time to that 18-year-old kid, that's just about to graduate high school.
Hmm.
And, that young Anthony that is jumping into community college without a clear path. But,
Hmm.
he has all this jumbled information, no clear direction. If you could go back right now and spend about 2 to 3 minutes with him, what three
2 3 minutes.
pieces of advice would you share with that young 18-year-old Anthony Tristan right before he steps into his first class of community college?
Wow, 2 to 3 minutes. Whew. First would be to pick up a book and start reading. Um, I wish I would have started reading books a lot sooner, but I would say pick up So Good They Can't Ignore You, or just a book to to give you vision. I think second would be, um, don't let them say you can't do it. Um, because I did have a boss that did tell me that I wasn't going to be successful after college. He did say that I was going to go into debt and then come back and work for him as an engineer, and not basically not find a job as an engineer. And so I would say just and that did take a blow to me. So I would say, just mm, you know don't take no for an answer. You're gonna get through this, and just keep moving forward. I think those would be the two biggest pieces of advice. Pick up a book and don't let them tell you that you can't do
Fantastic. Thank you so much,
it.
Anthony. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this interview with you. Thank you for sharing those wonderful reflections, experiences with us, and those pieces of advice that you would share with your younger self. Those are really amazing. Thank you so much. I acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing, for all the hard work. I know that it will definitely pay off. And I wish, and I know that we will continue this relationship, continue talking via LinkedIn and via
Absolutely.
text messages and whatnot. So I look forward to, if you have any questions at any given point, feel free to reach over to me and ask for any advice. And likewise, I will do the same thing to reach
Absolutely.
out to you. Thank you so much to
Thank
the
you.
audience. Thank you for sticking around, for watching another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. I really hope that you subscribe, share the episodes if you like them. This has been Lázaro Herrera for Success Innovation. We'll see you next time. Bye bye. Thank you so much for watching and listening to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. This story with Jerry Anthony Tristan has taken us into a wonderful understanding of what it is to navigate from the military position into college and how to start pursuing a career in industry. Jerry Anthony's journey has been interesting, and the sharing of knowledge that he has provided with us in Success Innovation is so valuable. I definitely appreciate you as listeners, and I hope you were able to acquire some insight and some knowledge. Please share the episode with those who you think would benefit. Subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment so that I can continue making this type of episodes and that I cater to whatever the audience needs at the moment. Lázaro Herrera from Success Innovation. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.